Welcome to In Data We Trust, the podcast where data isn't just numbers, it's the heartbeat of global supply chains. I'm Priya Thinagar, and every week we dive deep into how data, AI, and analytics are shaping the way goods move, decisions are made, and businesses thrive. If you're passionate about where technology meets supply chains, you're in the right place. Get ready to unpack insights, hear real-world stories, and meet the innovators transforming supply chains with the power of data. This is In Data We Trust. Let's get moving. Welcome, Aparna, to the show. We're so excited to have you today on this podcast.
Hey, Priya, thank you so much for having me.
Aparna, you touched on, in the insights world, AI is definitely able to do quite a bit on those insights. So instead of you feeling as a victim, doing something about it, right? Like, hey, it's coming for some of the aspects of the role. How do you think about it? What do you think, professional that's thinking about a career in insights could do to be prepared? Because this is here to stay, right? We all know that AI is here to stay. So how do you, think about that? And, what advice do you have for our listeners?
So I would just track back to the times when Microsoft had just launched computers. Everyone was trying to make sense of it. We did conquer that. Now we know how to use it. That's really what is going to happen to AI also. It's not going to replace people that know how to use it for the benefit of better outcomes, speed, and just scale. But then you need to spend the time and energy to understand how do you do that. So I just encourage everyone to think about use cases. Right now, I'm working on defining the problem statement. I've been experimenting a few things with AI. There are days which I feel like, oh, yes, I got it. And many days versus the few days where I think I got it, many days I feel like, oh, this is not working. The challenge also has been, if I have 5 hours to work on a task, do I spend that in experimentation and then learn that it didn't do what I wanted it to do? Versus me just doing it in the traditional way and then moving on to my next project. So we've been, having a lot of internal conversations on how do we tackle that, because that's real, right? Like you have your deliverables, you have your milestones, you park that time aside and conduct experiments. I know there's a lot of new companies that are out there in the market, consulting and also product. So what's that right suite of tools that you need to make this change? Really defining what change are you trying to affect, and then getting into the weeds of like, how do you do it? What experiments will prove you right or wrong? Come up with a set of tools that will help and make it really specific for insights. Because I know as marketing as a whole has a lot more play here, like copywriting and image creation. All of that doesn't completely apply to insights. So how do we hunker down a little bit more? How do we zoom in on what should AI do for us? How will this make my life better? The delta, the time that you get out of outsourcing some of your tasks to AI, I would like to reinvest that in stakeholder relationship. Really understanding what problems needs to be solved, finding new ways to solve it, having continuous conversations. Imagine if I take 4 weeks to complete an analysis, and if AI can do it in 3 days, I have 3 more weeks of doing something bigger and better, more faster. So that's the value proposition I am seeing. I still haven't figured out exactly the how, but that's the value that that's how I would articulate that.
Aparna, you still have a big part to play to connect all of the pieces and parts together, right? What gets what I spits out is not totally maybe sometimes not accurate, maybe sometimes it doesn't have the proper context. So how do you think about that?
Yeah, I think that is really our role, to provide what role we want AI to play, provide context, help AI understand what it needs to do. Sometimes I ask questions like, okay, now respond back to me and tell me what you have understood before you process the answers for me. Sometimes I, give prompts like, be honest, don't sugarcoat the answer. Like sometimes you can just be really direct with AI, right, and start seeing the differences in the answers that you get. Always verify sources, where it's coming from, because it's still pulling a lot from what's out there in the internet. And yeah, I think human judgment is very critical at this point. Maybe like I err more on the 80% side of checking for it versus not. I don't completely trust it yet. But that's really the journey. How do you, develop AI to become a really trusted source? Like, how do you develop that model?
Yeah, I think for a lot of the mundane research, maybe, it gives you that 50% lift, and then you are then using like you said, the rest of the time really connecting the dots for your business and helping them see the value that overall that we could provide. Is there anything that you're doing specifically, Aparna, where and looking at it as a threat to, like, this is here to stay, so you might as well just start using it and getting value out of it? Is there anything that you did for it to ease in?
I think first would be just accepting that this is reality. Like, you need to make a lot of changes in how we show up. At some point, companies had real like customer service and answering calls. They still do, but a ton of that now is outsourced to like recorded voice. You have 4 options to choose from. That just removed so much time from the person actually talking.
Yeah.
So this is going to get integrated into life in more ways than we think it is. So first is acceptance. Number 2 is the only way to get out of fear is by doing it. So start somewhere. I don't think there is a right or wrong answer or place to start. It's really like exploration based on your use case. The way I've been thinking about experimentation right now is whatever project I am working on, I think AI first. So I kind of bring that mindset and say, okay, what parts, I have 5 sections and, in this project, what can AI do in section 1? What can AI do in section 2? So, and it may not be perfect. That's okay. I still learn. The third piece, especially within an organizational setting, just getting buy-ins with your seniors or your leaders that this is what I'm doing. It might take extra, maybe like a couple more weeks is how I would deliver it traditional way, but then there is learning going here. Having a buy-in up front, it just really helps. There's no surprise, like no one's asking what's going on. That also helps you ease in because there is a set permission and context for you to play in this. The last one would be really, I think it's more of a mindset, having a lot of patience. It is like training a fresh out of college person that just joined in your team. So I approach it like that. The only, I don't know if it's a good or a bad part, the only thing is you can be really direct with your feedback. You don't have to worry about emotions. So you can say like, hey, not right, let's. So if you have worked with people in any capacity, just applying that principle to AI has also helped me kind of ease in. And I think the last one I'm going to share, I still struggle with it, letting it be imperfect.
Yeah.
And if there is failure, just record that and move on and try it again.
Right.
And don't do it alone. There are so many, obviously, people within your organization or teams that are in this journey. How can you access that network? How can you talk to other people within your organization or outside? There are so many great resources on LinkedIn, you could just hunker into. So yeah, I think it's a journey, but you just need all these little pieces to help with the transition.
Yeah, and I like how you started with acceptance. I guess that's the first step to even getting comfortable with what's out there, and and how we go about it. As you were talking, a lot about the insights journey, you have to understand about the business, being a strategic player. It also means that you're talking to a lot to very senior leadership or to the C-suite, right? So how do you think about taking a concept like AI, talking about what are we doing with AI, and are we getting more productivity? It may not be at the 30% productivity, but there are things that are tangible, there are things that are not tangible. Being able to have that conversation and influence those decision makers at the table. So speak to us a little bit about when you have those senior leadership and the C-suite conversation, how do you go about with that?
I would say prep work, number 1. That's the meetings before the meeting.
Yeah.
And if who else is in the room, just checking in with them to share like what you're planning to get a good rounded perspective on your point of view. Because at the end of the day, we have 30 minutes with C-suite. We want to make sure that they feel good about the time that they spent. One of the key tenets that I kind of hold on to is like, how do we lead with impact? We don't want to talk about what is the process. We want to communicate in outcomes.
Yeah.
And once I have my deck ready, I basically tear it down and say, okay, what should be that one message from the slide? How many slides do we need? 3 slides, 2 slides? Can I put everything in a one pager that narrates everything? Is there consistency between what I communicated last versus this time? Is there a continuation of the story or has anything changed? I think that's really important. And also providing my next steps, which could be just me, my next steps, or I, got in 3 other teams to buy in on this, and we are going to explore XYZ experiment. So being really, really clear on outcomes is good. Do like a what if I had 2 minutes with this person in the elevator? How will I explain this? That's another kind of a prep work that I do. And also, what if I'm explaining this to a 7-year-old? Will they understand? Is it simple enough? It's not about how much you want to say. It is really about what they want to know and how it will change a problem that we are solving. So getting like really crystal clear, it's not an easy yeah, way to do it. At the same time, not being intimidated
Right.
with the audience that you're talking to is also a good way to think about it, especially when you're starting out on this journey. It's fine if you're wrong. It's fine if it didn't work out. You can come back and try a different way. So as long as you prepped well, I think that's very helpful.
Preparation is key, and then also having an elevator pitch. So in case you only have 60 seconds for this person, then you've got the quick version of what is the message that you're trying to convey. Is there an example that you could walk through? So is there a set of steps that you sort of follow that maybe will be helpful for someone doing it for the first time?
Yeah, so number one would be your analysis. You have your point of view. You check in with your immediate team that, hey, this is what we want to say. And then you start getting feelers, like a couple of, people that might give extremely productive feedback. There might be a few that will challenge you, and you want a combination of both to prep for it. And a one pager is always, I like to narrow down and say, here are the 10 slides we will discuss. The last three are your pre-read. We will just focus our time on 3 and 4. That's where the meat of, the conversation is. So giving very accurate directions on where we want to spend the time, and also being a little bit flexible and asking, hey, this is what I'm planning to share. Is there anything else you want to hear? Or do you want to start in a different place? Just having that kind of patience. It's not about getting to the end of the slides. It is about changing thinking. Always remembering that is helpful.
It's a conversation, right? Like you want it to be a conversation, and it's not about getting through all your slides.
It's a conversation. And really anticipating the questions that might come your way, and maybe already build it into your slide, or be humble to say, well, we didn't think about it. We'll come back. And that's totally valid. Again, they are looking for partners. They're not looking for people that report out. So how do you inch closer to
and you don't have to be right all the time, right? Like it could be an evolution journey as well, as you talk to, if you knew that that's where you want to get to, then I think conversations go very smoothly, because your expectation is not that we're locking it today, but it's as long as we've had the conversation and it drives another follow-up meeting or something else, you've done a pretty good job of it. Yeah, it definitely is an art, right? But do you use a lot of data, or do you use a combination of data and storytelling, depending on the audience, and what's the most easier way for to consume the data? Like you said, I want to see if a 7-year-old will understand. So what sort of strategy do you use in your current work or outside of how you press on? Is it a combination, or is it certain ways that work well?
I think it's a combination. Data helps. But then you probably already, if you're being invited to have conversations at this level, they probably are, your credibility is established. No one's checking like if your data is right, or that's not the play. More than the report insights that's come from your research or report, how does that translate into XYZ dollar amount invested? If we did, the recommendation, how does this change our trajectory? Do you have a sense of that? I think that's extremely important to think about. And also, well, again, that will be my opening slide. Like, okay, invest in XYZ, X million dollars return in 5 years. So having that point of view right out there, and you get their attention. Like that's how you get their attention, and like, okay, this is worth spending my time. There's like X million dollars coming in if we, explore this better. And then thinking through like next steps and who's involved and anticipating questions. Honestly, I think that's a good mix. Yeah. Also, sometimes it depends if it's what type of a meeting are you going into? Are you making a decision? Are you showing an opportunity? We still don't know whether we want to go into or not. So having more context of it, is it a storytelling requirement, or is it, well, this is your final, let's just do it. What's your path? Setting some context there also helps. Maybe one other thing, I would talk about it. So a great mentor of mine once said, there are two kinds of people. One that will ask me what I can do for you. And there are the other kind of people that will tell me what I should be doing. And I think C-suite is looking for the latter. Like they want people to come tell them what they can do to. That means you already understand the business. You have done the groundwork to find the right insights to support. You have gathered cross-functional support. You have a very clear idea of next steps, and you're just getting their nod.
Right. Yeah.
There is no discussion on what we should be doing. This is what we're doing. Okay, is there a way you can elevate this? Yeah, that's kind of like my North Star. Obviously, it's a journey. So, I inch towards that. It's an everyday process. I think that's a very valuable advice.
Yeah. Is there something that I haven't thought about that you're thinking about that I want to know and weave into these next steps? Aparna, you've been in the food service industry for a while. With AI, coming to the forefront, what are you seeing as a trend that the food service industry is hungry for?
I would not even start with AI first. I would say it's just given how this industry has evolved, especially over the last 5 years.
Yeah, with COVID and coming out of COVID, I guess. Yeah.
With the lockdowns, takeout and delivery becoming the norm of the day. And then we saw on-premise again, like coming back up. Then we went into an inflationary environment. So everyone's figuring out what tariffs for them. It has been quite a journey. I don't know, fortunately, unfortunately, my journey with food service started right around COVID. So it's been interesting to see that span out. And it also is from my lens of, I'm from India. So I see what that space looks like in a different country versus the US. So I kind of like try to compare what's going on there versus here. All this, there's one thing that's remained constant. And I think that's productivity or efficiency of operation. All your operators are thinking about how do I make this efficient for me? How do I make my workers do less on the job, but then deliver more because labor is an issue, supply chain is an issue. So as long as any AI solution can talk to the operational efficiency piece, there is a need for it. I would strongly recommend, operators to think through that. AI can remove a lot of, mundane tasks. We also saw like the rise of automation in between, which is not really AI, but more of like robotics. So how do we take the mundane task out? And very similar to what we discussed on my role in AI.
Yeah, I think there's a lot about hospitality and knowing your guests. Hopefully AI does some of the mundane things where you have more time to go really know your guests. Are you seeing a lot of impacts with tariffs?
Absolutely. Tariffs, that is a very evolving topic, and we're seeing so many different changes every day. And I think it really depends on which type of operator we are talking about or what categories they are buying. It is definitely going to have impact, but I think it's too early to totally understand what that impact might look like. So, of course, it's a topic that we closely monitor, to understand what changes are happening on a day-to-day basis.
So in your role, I'm guessing that you're doing a lot of that simulation and what ifs and being prepared as much as you can. This was wonderful, for now, not just learning about insights, but also how to grow into a strategic player, how to speak with the C-suite. I also learned that the chief insights officer might be a new trend that you as a trendsetter are starting. Excited to see how that journey moves as we're learning a lot more about AI and insights and obviously human. How do you bring that human touch back into everything that we're doing? Any closing thoughts for our audience?
Thanks, Priya. This was a wonderful experience talking about all of my favorite topics. Yes, closing thoughts. I think curiosity is extremely important, not thinking or limiting yourselves to be just the data person. Honestly, thinking about the higher impact, what does this mean for the business? How do I tell a story more concisely? And always think about impact. I think that is the key, and keep pushing for that seat at the table. That's really the main takeaway. Thanks so much.
And thank you, Aparna, for your time today, and look forward to catching up again soon. You've been listening to In Data We Trust, the voice of a world where precision, speed, and insight define who wins. Every decision, every movement, every success starts with a hidden truth in the data. If you find something powerful today, subscribe, share, and join us as we decode the future of supply chains. Until next time, trust the data and keep innovating.